My name is Benny Johnson, and welcome to the Benny Report. This weekend, a rare one in the Johnson household. Dad got to go out with his friends. Boys' night. In Tampa, there's a place called Ybor City where you can get hand-rolled cigars, authentic Cuban food, aged rum. It's not really a place for kids, and the wife insisted that I needed some guy time, so that was that. Dad out. It was a great time. Not a Paul Pelosi-style great time. Everyone got home safe. Nobody was arrested. But you know what was not great? The next morning. I'm 36. I run a small business. I'm a dad of 2 little girls who make their own hours. And so any parent who's been there will tell you at this stage your baseline tank is empty. If you add a few cigars and some sipping juice into the hours of sleep that you are losing, well, then you're in for a very, very tough morning in the morning. And that was me. I was hurting the next morning. Luckily, my wife is a good wife and a nurse at that, so she was there with the electrolytes, the aspirin, the heavy breakfast, followed by a restful day of naps built in. What I'm getting at is that Nurse Kate knew what I needed by just taking a look at me, standing bleary-eyed, wincing in a bathrobe at the bottom of the stairs. Wives instinctively know what their husbands need. If you really want to know what's going on with a dude, check in with his wife. How does she treat him? This brings us to another American couple where the husband is a wobbly, slurred speech, troubled thinking, and standing upright kind of guy whose wife is constantly having to tend to him. Again, we're not talking about Paul Pelosi. We're talking about Joe Biden and Jill Biden. If you really want to understand what's going on with Joe Biden, and we do, watch how Jill Biden treats him.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay, so that's the First Lady grabbing with her meat hooks the President of the United States and dragging him backward away from the press. And it's not the first time that Jill had to wrestle Joe away from reporters.
They can drill so the hell won't have it, but they're not doing it, number 2. Number 3, I think we're going to be in a position where we're going to...
Mr. President, you still, Mr. President, you still consider India as a pariah?
1.2 billion people in India are waiting for you to visit India.
I've been to India twice, and I'll be back to India. My relationship is very good.
Mr. President.
So you can see there Joe Biden's arm being yanked behind him by the First Lady. You've never seen this in your life. This is Jill Biden personally, physically dragging Joe away from reporters. There are also moments where Jill Biden reports to Joe, reporting to him who his own granddaughter is. Watch.
And Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. Where are you, Miguel?
Yeah, where is my...
He says there he is. He's educating people in the back. There you go.
Miguel. Did you say Naomi, too?
I didn't see Naomi.
She's over here. How can you miss her?
I tell you what, Naomi, how are you? That's my granddaughter, our eldest granddaughter.
And her fiance.
And I can't see.
And Peter.
It's painful to watch it. Watch this next clip closely. You'll see Jill Biden having to remind Joe Biden, the president, to wave at the crowds during Easter.
Thank you and happy, happy Easter. All right.
At the very same event, Jill Biden, who often treats Joe like a dog, told him to sit like a dog.
Okay, just stay.
So you're telling me just sit, don't move. She's a teacher.
I'm the teacher, you know.
She's a teacher.
Sit, don't move. That's what Jill Biden said to Joe Biden, her husband. Is this the way a normal wife talks to her husband? No. Is Jill Biden being a battle axe and trying to purposefully embarrass her husband and humiliate him? Well, we would argue, no, we don't think so. There's no way that you stick by a guy as creepy and dandruffy and insufferable as Joe Biden without actually having a deep down abiding love for him. You really got to love the guy. Jill's trying to protect Joe Biden in these clips. It's instinctual. What Jill is screaming here unconsciously, albeit, is that Joe Biden is impaired, feeble, and incapable of regular tasks without collapsing into confusion. Watch what happens when Joe leaves Jill's side for a solitary moment. Timber. Jill Biden's in that clip. Jill Biden was right behind Joe. She went one way, he went the other. And Joe Biden then decided to physically literally collapse. Now, who else is there? Jill can't be there at all times, right? She's not the night nurse. Who else is there to help guide Joe Biden? Well, Joe's sister wife, which he also takes a lot of adoration to, and they take very good care of him, is the teleprompter screen. Joe's teletype screen is a massive and comforting presence at all times in his life. It's a slow scroll that guides Joe's fragile brain quietly and softly through his speeches that he did not write. It prompts him to verbalize a language that he no longer speaks. Joe loves his telescreen so much that when he looks at her, well, he barely even blinks.
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. The brave women and men in blue all across this nation should never forget that.
What if I did my show like this, with giant unblinking eyes? How long would you watch? What if my voice was like this? Oh, this is extremely creepy. It's extremely creepy. I guess it's true love. I guess you stop blinking, your sympathetic nervous system stops working when you see something you love, and that must be Joe and the teletype. Its warm glow follows him everywhere he goes. However, there is times when Joe's two loves are no longer with him. God help us. Joe is completely and totally lost. Watch the few seconds of spontaneous thought from Joe Biden from just this week at the White House. This clip, by the way, is so troubled that our producer wouldn't play it without us adding a bouncing ball so that you can follow along Joe Biden's fragile thinking. Take a look.
Thank you so much.
Tell me how you do that. I understand it. I mean, it's clear in its face. You're accurate. But how, in making the case of the freedom men have, what do you do to, other than to sort of embarrass men into getting into the argument and voting the right way on this issue?
Okay, so this is confirmed. Elder abuse. Elder abuse. That's what's happening. God help us when there's no wife or teleprompter mistress or bouncing ball for Joe Biden. When all else fails, well, it actually falls to literal mythical creatures to assist the president with his daily functions.
Pakistan should not, and Afghanistan should be. People should
Oh, the Easter Bunny, Mr. President.
You see the look? See the look on Joe Biden's face? I mean, I like to think to myself when I watch that clip that Joe Biden has been seeing the Easter Bunny for decades through the dementia, right? And through the mental collapse. And that for the first time he actually saw the apparition in real life. Okay, so he's been seeing the Easter Bunny, but now it like appeared before him, and the shock was profound and authentic. It's all fun and games. We can laugh until somebody gets hurt. Incompetence has a price. Hubris has victims. 1 year ago, the man who needed to be led around by the Easter Bunny ordered the deadly withdrawal from troops in Afghanistan. The bungled mess led to the slaughter of innocents in the native population, who can forget the shots of the C-130s taking off as young men clung to the wheel wells only to die seconds later. But it also led to the killing of 13 Americans this week, 1 year ago. The White House wants you to forget this fact.
On a different topic, tomorrow marks the 1 year anniversary of when the president marked the end of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, the end of the war there. How does the president plan to mark that occasion? Does he plan to speak to the American people? Does he plan to honor the lives of the 13 service members who were lost?
As you know, last week on Friday, we did put out, the president put out a statement, released a statement where he named each of the 13 troops who were tragically killed that day. The president feels deeply about the loss that was suffered 1 year ago.
Ah, got it. A press release. How comforting. That's one level below ignoring the CIA evidence about the suicide bomber in the first place, which Joe Biden's administration did, and one level above looking at your watch as the bodies of the Americans that you killed rolled off a plane. Perhaps it was the dementia, the old age, or the fatigue. Nobody will ever know, and nobody will ever forget Joe Biden staring at his watch because he had better things to do than honor the service members that died on his watch. No minding from the bedpan nurse Jill Biden could ever prevent this insult, could ever get us to forget this insult. The president looking at his watch. What else has happened on the president's watch, by the way, in this time? Well, this week, we began to see the evidence of Iraq's coming collapse. Ukraine is devastated. Taiwan is threatened daily by the communist ethno-state of China. Iran is rearming with nuclear weapons and enriched uranium. They're pointing those weapons directly at Israel. You can guarantee that. I get the sense that we are being primed for a world war. Things are coming apart very quickly. With this current cast of indifferent, uninspiring, and borderline malevolent world leaders, the world is spiraling dangerously out of control, and one must ask, who would fight in a war for these people? Who will watch the wall? As it turns out, young men in America don't want to fight for Joe Biden and watch Joe Biden look at his watch as their mothers weep. According to NBC News, every branch of the U.S. military is struggling to meet its fiscal year 2022 recruiting goals. A record low percentage of young American eligible men ready to serve want to, and an even thinner fraction are willing to even consider it. The officials say that the Pentagon's top leaders are now in panic and are scrambling for ways to find new recruits to fill out the ranks of the all-volunteer force. If you do sign up for the U.S. military, take the cold comfort that you may not even have a weapon to use. Will you have weapons to fight with? This is actually the first time in my lifetime that American soldiers have had to ask that question. Will your weapons be stuck in the mud in some Ukrainian backwater? The Wall Street Journal, citing an unnamed Pentagon official, reporting that there are uncomfortably low levels of munitions in the military stockpile. How low? Well, apparently we wouldn't be able to defend our country if there were a war right now. And I quote, "It's not at the level that we would want to go into combat with," said the unnamed defense official. They were saying this to the Wall Street Journal. So no recruits, no weapons, no will to fight, no respect from the commander-in-chief. A man led around by his terrified wife, a teleprompter, and the Easter Bunny. Who would want to fight for that? That's what we'll explore on this special episode of The Benny Report, Afghanistan Disaster 1 year out. Our next guest lost her son in the totally preventable Kabul attack 1 year ago. Gold Star mother Shanna Chappell joins us next.